Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom and I'm the founder at designcuts.com, and this week I'm joined by fellow Brit and renowned hand letterer Ian Barnard, American retro design master Dustin Lee, and top South African illustrator Lisa Glantz. In this week's episode, we talk about how to get out of a design rut. There's nothing worse as a creative than feeling the dreaded creative block. Today, we chat through some effective ways to break through this block and find your inspiration again. Let's get into the show. So this week we're talking about how to get out of the dreaded design rut, or as it may be known, creative block, which I think is every designer's worst nightmare, right?
Yep.
When you've kind of lost your muse and you've hit a wall and you can't see the wood for the trees and you think, how am I going to get through this? You feel like you couldn't create it if your life depended on it. I don't know, have I gone dark there? Because I've certainly felt that way.
Yeah,
on
so
occasion.
have I. Definitely.
Feel that way all the time. Feel that way right now.
Really?
What, talking to us? You just feel stuck.
No, I've seen it. Funny you talk about this. I had it the other day, and I often come up with it, especially when I'm trying to post something different every day. I just sit there going, "What shall I do?" And I just sit there. And I just have no ideas whatsoever. And
So
I
how
think,
do you get through it?
son? And
How do you get through it then?
So what I usually do after I've got frustrated, gone and eat something else in the cupboard, had another coffee.
There's always food involved, I must say.
I usually normally go on Pinterest or something and find a style I've never done before. Specifically for me, is like some typography style, and just have a play trying to work out how to do that or do my own interpretation of it, with no goal in mind to post it. That it's sometimes that playfulness of doing something that's completely out of your zone, or going, like, I have a subscription to Skillshare, just going on there and finding a course that's something I never thought I'd think about doing, and just having a play, really, because usually, like, ideas come because it's like when you need to get started with something. It's always that first step of trying to get started. I find that if it's one certain thing that's stopping me, I go, okay, I'll completely turn it to the other side and go and try something different, whether that's play with an iPad or the Surface I've got at the moment, or whether it's just go back to a pencil or something like that. Just trying to get out of, and just not having something like, I need to get this done. Have it like, okay, I'm just going to have a play for a bit, and sometimes ideas spring from that. So
you do something completely different, which I think is great advice, because you can't just push through it sometimes. You really can't. It's not like you're
it does
running
feel
a
like
marathon and
physical.
you're tired and it's like, well, just run a bit further or get your breath back and then keep going. It's like, if you really hit the wall, you cannot push through it. So as you say, maybe you pivot and do something totally different, because you can't continue on the same road.
Yeah.
So Ian, if you post every day and that happens, what if it just doesn't work? What if you don't come up with anything?
It just doesn't work. It was like the other day.
So you don't post?
Like last week, there was one day I just didn't post because it was literally, I just couldn't. There was just nothing going on upstairs.
That's inspirational in a weird way.
Because like there's some people who are a lot more organised than me, who would have like, Monday I'm going to post this, Tuesday I'm going to post this, Wednesday I'm going to post this.
Wow. No,
I literally 5 seconds before I post it think of an idea. Or no, because that sounds like I do it in 5 seconds. But it's usually, before I do it, it's just like, today I'm going to do something with a Crayola marker,
But I think that keeps your feed quite fresh, doing that.
It's not not on purpose. It's all by accident.
Right. Sure. Okay, so I don't know. I feel like we need to dwell a little bit on how much it sucks, because we
'Cause that's always more encouraging.
I'm always down for that.
Well, we get a lot of comments being like, "You're in my head." Like, a lot of the listeners say, like, "Oh, I thought I was the only one who felt like this." So I would say if you're hitting a creative block, first of all, cut yourself a break, because every designer goes through this. Like the top designers in the world go through this. It's the most natural thing in the world, and I feel like it's only exacerbated if you're freaking out and stressing yourself out and beating yourself up about being stuck. So just acknowledge, be like, this is normal. That's step one.
Exactly. And it's funny you say that, because when I'm in those creative block modes, and they often relate around color, like I get stuck on color, I actually forget to take a step back. I just go further and further down this hole, and I kind of get lost in this hole, and it's not a pleasant experience. And it's weird how you just forget the simple thing of leaving your desk and walking off, you know, and just taking a break, having a coffee, having a cookie, or 3 or 10. But, you know, like, because that's what I do. But yeah, it's so important. And then the weirdest thing, I don't know if you guys have the same thing, something you think that absolutely sucks, and you come back like 2 hours later and you look at it again, you think, wow, that's pretty awesome.
All the time. I'll see something from like a year ago and be like,
okay.
that was amazing.
Yeah, it's weird. So what is that? I mean, what is wrong with us? Like,
I think it's a psychological thing. It isn't always that your work has gone down a horrible direction, but some things clicked in your brain where you're like, oh, I'm not feeling this. I kind of equate it to, like, you ever have those days where you're just in a bad mood for no good reason, and you're kind of down on everything. And if you relive the same day in a different frame of mind, it would be absolutely fine, or possibly even a great day.
Yeah.
And
totally.
Same thing with your projects.
Our brains are total liars. They lie to us all the time about when things are good or bad. Just as much as they tell us things are bad and they're good, sometimes I do things and I think they're brilliant. And then I realize later when I look back, I'm like, boy, that was a crazy bad decision that seems so good at the time. And I don't even drink. And I'll be like, that was a horrible decision.
Yeah. No, that is weird.
I think for me, it can be a load of factors that suddenly all come together to create this massive wall, which is like, I could be tired, the kids might have been up in the night, sales in my shop are down that day, someone's left a bad comment on YouTube video I've put up, and it's all these number of things suddenly mount up, and then you're like, and then there's this creative block as well, and you're like, oh, it's all going horribly, and you know, it's I've lost my sort of creative mojo, and you just sink. And the problem is, for me personally, I sometimes I do struggle to sort of like go and do something else. I know that I sometimes
you should remove yourself.
And I'm like, I can't do it. And it's just like, oh, this is all horrible.
And that's another reason why they have that advice that says in the morning, you shouldn't check your email. You shouldn't check anything. You should just do your creative work.
Yeah.
Because I know for me, one bad email and I'll be taking a Klonopin and sleeping for the day, or watching YouTube videos depressed.
Yeah. It's so true. And that's the thing I think about creative block is sometimes related to inner critics, you know, like if you're feeling shite about, sorry, there it is again. If you're feeling
language, Lisa, listeners, I'm so sorry. We've got the regular culprit at it again.
If you're feeling bad about yourself, as you were saying, Ian, like, you know, somebody gave you a bad comment and the next thing happened, and then before you know it, you think, well, I suck and this sucks and everything sucks, and my problem is I try and push through that, and I know it actually isn't helpful, but yeah, it's difficult to get past that.
I think something that can be effective is actually tuning into what's happening when you're in each state. So being aware of the stuff we're talking about, maybe it's like bad emails or comments or stress or whatever it might be. But on the flip side, paying attention to what's happening when you feel you're most inspired. So is it that you're feeling particularly refreshed or had a great night's sleep?
Yeah.
Because that's something you can work to replicate. Is it that you've just come back from vacation? Is it that you've gone for a walk? Like, whatever it is, try and find patterns in your life that you can then start to get a little bit of control. Because I think what I hate about creative block is that you feel a lack of control, especially if it's like, oh no, a deadline's creeping up on you, and you're really panicking about that, and you just think, oh, this is completely out of my hands now. I can't get through this. Whereas at least you can exercise a little bit of control by being like, okay, well, I know every time I go and lie in my hammock outside for 15 minutes, that tends to help. So I'm going to do that, and that might do something for me here.
And it becomes so hard to do that, right? It becomes so hard to go to your hammock when you're stressed out. You feel this chain pulling you to your computer when probably what you need more than anything is to go to that damn hammock.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm glad you brought that up because, sorry, I was just going to say that for me, over the years, I've realized if I want to have a good like drawing session, I need to do like a little routine, like, get my music going, clean my desk.
What music? What's your music?
Oh, everything
good
from
question.
Neil Young to hip hop to it's like weird.
I wondered what inspired you for your bunnies.
Oh, really?
Harvest
Normally-
Gold, baby.
Normally it's older music, but yeah, it's mixed. Then you just like kind of like have a routine, and then your brain gets into the mode that you are now gonna get down serious and create. So if you're setting yourself up for a good session, it's probably gonna go better than if you are walking in after reading a bad email or you had a fight with your partner or whatever. So yeah, set yourself up.
So what would be the worst way to make you have a horribly unproductive day?
Me personally.
Why are you going to orchestrate this?
I'm just curious so people could hear the opposite, think about the opposite of that.
Are you talking about me? Me personally?
Yeah, or whoever. I'm just curious what blocks you or stops you.
Mine's pretty similar to Ian's, actually. If I have a series of things that always involve my questioning of my ability. So whether it's like a bad comment or sales are a bit down, or the last drawing I did was a little bit crappy, it's kind of like an accumulation of things. And then I go down this rabbit hole, and before you know it, I'm the worst illustrator on earth, and why am I even bothering? And yeah, it's
I wouldn't
terrible.
go with that for the tagline on your new website, by the way.
But it's hard to, especially when you're stuck. It's terrible to get out of. It's very difficult.
Yeah, it is.
I
Sorry, Ian, go on, mate.
Something I posted the other day was, and which comes up as well when you're feeling in this bad mood anyway, is about comparing yourself to others kills your sort of confidence, and it also can kill your creativity. In that, like, oh, my stuff's rubbish compared to theirs, and it doesn't help to get out of that creative block by looking. So I suppose what you want to do is avoid yourself of looking at other people's work unless you're trying to get some inspiration from a different style, or cutting yourself off from emails as well. So,
well, may I ask you guys about this? I'm sorry to ask another question, but I'm so curious how you guys deal with this, because I deal with this a lot myself. Do you, if someone makes you feel bad when you see their work, there's some people I see and I think the same thing, I'll never be that good. And I tend to avoid it. I think, well, this is unhealthy. I shouldn't be looking at something that's making me think that. Do you avoid people or work that make you feel not good? Or do you look at it a ton and challenge yourself and just be in an uncomfortable situation? I tend to hide from it. I'm never sure if that's healthy or not.
I don't do either, actually, so much. I don't want to go super positive on here, but I kind of try and find the inspiration in it, and to an extent try and deconstruct what they're doing. So I might get this with web design, and I'd be like, I know that's at a different level from me, but that doesn't make me feel bad. It kind of shows me the potential of what I could be doing. And then I'd try and break down like what are the subtle things, because it would normally be very subtle things that, especially with websites, I think, that make the difference between something that's really, really high end and like, world class, like massive corporation or something like that. That's going to look different level in terms of slickness to like a homemade website. But even if they're the same exact layout, it will be like tiny little differences in like detail and color that set the two apart. And so I would, as I say, I'd try and just break down and be like, okay, why is that better than mine? And that would often be helpful.
For me, I actually put a time limit on the people that I admire, that I look up to, because I think it gets to a point where the beginning you go, oh, that's so beautiful, that's so awesome, and you really like the your soul sort of comes alive when you look at it, because that's like your goal. but then it gets to I think a tipping point where it starts actually becoming negative. So you got
When you're
to
stalking them.
yeah. Well, you start doing the whole "I'll never be that good," why am I bothering, all this kind of stuff. So I think you got to know in your own self when is that tipping point? Is it like a time, or is it amount of work that you're looking at, or yeah. So at least know yourself well enough to know when it's healthy and when it starts getting unhealthy. That's what I do.
The problem is, I follow people that are maybe alongside the level where I am and higher, so I have things to aspire to. But then the hard thing is that you get that sort of, you see something they've done and it's sort of like blown out of the ballpark what I've just done, and you're just like, oh, well, I wish I could do that. And so it's a weird mix of, for me personally, I get a weird mix of sort of like, oh, I can't do what they're doing, and but that depends on my mood. I sometimes think, oh, I'm going to try that today. I like that. That's inspired me. But then another day, I'll be looking at the same person's work, and I'll be going, oh, they just way out my league of where I could reach. And it's just, I suppose it's down to your individual, how your mind works, really. And I suppose if you're in that mindset of, I can never reach that, and you're going down that path, I suppose it's time to then maybe make sure you're not looking at it today and focus on something else that you're doing that you can distract from those, because it's just those thoughts playing on your mind that are doubting your abilities, that and they can sort of snowball into and that's where the sort of creative block can start coming in, because your confidence gets knocked by stuff you've seen. And it's no fault of the designer who's put the stuff out there. It's just where you're at that day, and every day is different, when you're doing creative stuff. Because one thing I find that if I am really stuck is that, okay, I'm going to get on with my admin tasks because they're something that's an A to B job. I know where B is, whether it's like finances, whether it's like invoicing and stuff like that.
Yeah, we talked about this before, like adjusting your mindset and or adjusting your work around your mindset.
Yeah, so if you're really, really uninspired, then just do stuff that's uninspiring, that's just mundane, but needs to get on. And I find that the whole sort of clear desk, clear mind does really work, but
well, I can see what's behind you, Ian.
And that's why my mind is all over the place. Because
for everyone listening, I can see Ian on webcam right now, and he has got sort of an Everest of hand lettering.
It sort of starts here and goes up to, and it sort of combines with the bookshelf.
Like if it fell, you wouldn't survive. Maybe.
Yeah.
It's so big.
He's created a bunker down there. Okay, so in terms of getting stuck in a rut, for me, the more I'm thinking about this, I think it all comes from originality. Because if I could churn out the same design like a factory almost, and so I don't know, I hand paint a sign with some kind of message, and then I sell it, and then I have to do another one, and then I sell it. That's pretty easy to do. So where I feel stuck is that I think, oh no, I don't know how to do something original in this product. So if I start creating a website or a design of any nature, and I think, oh, this feels really samey, this doesn't stand out, that's where I kind of hit my wall. Do you guys feel the same about that?
Maybe I felt it more when I was in graphic design, like doing the more graphic design stuff. But at the same time, there's also, I also valued that because it was, I felt comfortable in that groove. But I found that if you go back to researching the project again, because often, if you kind of halfway through it and you're stuck, actually going back to research could actually trigger a different path that you can take, instead of the same path that you always take. So if you feel that way, that would be a good place to start.
Was it David Bowie, I think, where he laid out a circle of lyrics? It's like he'd sit on the floor and lay out a circle around him on the floor, and then he'd kind of pick words and combine them.
I've heard about that
him?
a little bit.
That's cool.
So, yeah, and I'm sure like you can
tell.
I don't know. You might need to ingest some drugs or something, but you can you could do that kind of thing as a designer. That's like a real life Pinterest.
I think you just need
right,
really
where
good
you just
bangs.
surround yourself. Yeah, exactly. The legend. Yeah, I think that kind of thing can work though. And getting away from the screen while still looking at digital inspiration. So you can print stuff out, you can pin it on a notice board, you can sit on the floor and surround yourself with it, like all these different things. I think it's just removing yourself from that setting, because all four of us, I think, this episode have talked about feeling chained to your desk.
Yeah.
And that is not conducive to feeling inspired.
No, definitely
It's not. Sometimes I get mad inside.
That's horrible.
Does anyone else feel those emotions?
Just about life, or
No, being like when I'm at my desk and I'm working on something and it's not working and I really want to leave it, but like I want to see my kids or I want to do something, and then the other part of my brain, like the little devil on the one shoulder, says, "No, you need to stay and keep working. You've been a bad boy and haven't came up with a good idea yet. You stay at the desk." You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
folks?
you kind of got like a sexual overtone to your internal monologue going on there.
Yeah, I get similar things, not that way. Yeah, I just get infuriated that I'm stuck. That's my problem, and then it just spirals.
But do you get angry?
Yeah.
Because
I do.
Like, does that help? Like if you go and smash something,
no,
that doesn't help.
I just get so frustrated, like, and then for 2 hours afterwards, you don't want to be talking to me. It's not a pretty sight, I must be honest. But yeah, I must say, the other thing I actually use quite often when I'm in a rut is I recall pieces and look at them. Pieces that I'm really, really proud of. I mean, I'm sure you've all had these designs or whatever it is that you do, where you actually can't believe that you created them. Like, they're so good.
I never have that feeling. I literally never have that feeling.
That's the best humble brag I've ever heard.
Really?
Yeah. Sort of a very, very wafer-thin veil of modesty.
Does that feel good, Lisa? That. Does that feel really good? Because I've never felt that. Does it feel good to look back at your stuff and say how amazing it is?
What I meant was...
There you go, Tom. That's the quote you're going to put on...
That is definitely the quote. So you become your own cheerleader.
I can't believe I did that.
Your
It's
own
so
inspiration.
Good.
That came out wrong.
No, I understand what you're saying. It's just in the context of the group, it made it sound really funny. But
basically, if you're so good, you don't need to look elsewhere for inspiration.
No, that's not what I mean.
Look at yourself.
No.
Do you ever just browse Dribble and then like you see something and you're like, this is so amazing, and then you're like, wait, this is Lisa Glantz? It's my own self?
No.
Her Instagram feed is just her feed. Just flicking through her feed to get inspiration.
I'm never going to live that up. Oh, God.
Oh, no. Get control, Dustin. Okay.
I kind of know where you're coming from.
Well, what I meant
as much
was,
as we
let me
tease,
clarify, please.
Okay, please clarify.
So there's got to be a few times in your careers that you've looked back on pieces that you've gone, wow, that's actually like pretty good, There's got to be. You're trying to tell me there isn't, Dustin. Look at you. Anyway, so
there is. Yeah.
So what I do, that's I mean they're really rare. They're like seriously rare. So but they do exist, and you need to go back and look at them because they need. For me, I find that inspirational because you try and achieve that again. It's like all those musicians that come up with those amazing 1 songs or 2 songs in their career, that are kind of like genius. And then they obviously strive to kind of attain that again. It's kind of the same for me. Like if I know there's a piece that actually really wasn't my creating, it felt like it came from something else. It came from something bigger than me. See, it's a good way to aim. It's a good thing to aim for because it's at least it came through you at some point, so it's going to come through you again. You just got to.
Yeah, you kind of train your brain to realize what you're capable of.
Yeah.
I found that when I had my creative block the other week, it came straight out of I posted something that when I think it was more the message than anything else, but it's coming on like 2.6 million views on Facebook, and
Wait, is this one of your?
yeah, it was
things?
when I wrote some like really elegant script with a Crayola marker, just talking about the
That's got 2.5 million views. You didn't tell me that. That's nuts.
Very
2.5 million
cash
views.
about that.
That is
Wow.
crazy.
because because what it does, it talks about it's about the practice, not the pen. Because I'm always getting asked about what pen is that, but fundamentally it's about practicing. Because you can have the most expensive pen in the world, but if you don't know how to use it, then it's just it doesn't matter
Pointless.
what you've got.
Yeah.
And so what happened is that something I did that took me like five minutes before I ran out the door went, was really
Viral.
successful. And then when I tried to post something the next day, I was like, I don't know what to do now, because there's this like something went really, it was like it was on all platforms. It was like the most successful piece I've ever done. It's not the best piece I've ever done, but it's just, and I didn't know what to then, you have a good day. And then you're like, I can't compete with myself back then. Because what we're trying to do is, rather than, I want to be better than that person or that person, I can't be better than them. It's about, am I better than what I did yesterday? And then trying to come off something that did that well. I'm like,
It's like from the start, you're going to fail. You're like, you have to walk off the cliff and not be as good as you were after that 2.5 million view thing.
I know. And it just,
Which you can't because it's like anything. It's like, yeah, hopefully we all progress over time, but you can't progress indefinitely forever. Otherwise, you will end up being like a god or something, right?
And you
like,
can't.
It
and the
can't
thing
work
is,
like that.
you can't. There are some people who can manufacture stuff that goes viral. They know that sort of formula of things that work, and they've done it in the past. But when you
Draw on cute kittens.
drawn. If I had something with a cat, and but I think it's when you don't expect something to do well and it does well, you've got that expectation on yourself, and you're like, oh, I can't, and it's something you can't get rid of because it's there, and it's it gathered so much traction. You're just like, I don't know what to do now. How do I? I suppose that's why some artists who have like a number one when they didn't realize it was going to go number one, and then they're just like, oh, what do I do now? How do I compete?
Yeah, it's like a
with
one-hit
that?
wonder.
So, but then I suppose for me it should have been, you're not going to compete with that. Just do something. But I couldn't get out of my head.
Can I just say, we've talked a lot, especially in the early episodes, about the kind of mindset stuff of being a designer, and how messed up are we as creatives that we have like an amazing success happen and go to a dark place with it, where it's like, how am I ever going to compete with that, instead of just celebrating it, which is probably what we should do.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? I noticed if you're having a hard time or starting out as a designer or struggling, going through a hard period as a designer, it actually is just a mere reflection of having a good period as a designer. If you don't have something, you're trying to get it and you're having this negative feelings about that, along with positive feelings and stuff. But if you're succeeding, you're also afraid of losing what you just gained. So they both equally almost feel the same in a weird, twisted way. Maybe I'm just crazy, but that's how I feel when I look at it.
So you're saying that the pressure builds because you're getting more and more successful, that you feel like you have to keep up? Is that what you're saying?
Right. Well, I'll just give an example of when I first started Retro Supply and my baby was on the way and we made enough money to pay for the baby for 3 months and to pay for our rent and get going, right? I was so stressed before the success happened of making the money we really desperately needed. I was so stressed. Then we had it, and then I was so stressed that I wouldn't continue to have it. It felt pretty much the same, other than the 3 months recovered. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so if you're feeling really inspired and rocking a project, I guess try and live in the moment as much as you can. Try not to stress that it's going to go away, because it probably will. You're not going to feel inspired forever.
Absolutely.
And it's
This
okay,
is sounding
it's okay
like
to
a really
recognize
negative. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, but I think it's just part of being a designer.
It is.
So it kind of loops back to something I said at the start of this episode, which is just be aware of how normal all this is. Or not normal for like a normal human being, but normal for a designer, which is what we all are.
Yeah.
Because I've never met a creative that doesn't go through this, ever.
Yeah.
And it does sound negative, but this is actually a really common belief in Stoicism, basically builds the philosophical belief of Stoicism, builds in the idea that you should expect bad things to happen, not because you're being a negative Nancy, but because it sets you up to accept that things will be good sometimes, things will be bad sometimes. It's just the nature of life. It's neither good nor bad. It's just how it goes.
I find going back to another personal thing that I sort of fight with is that I might do, doing something for just me for posting, and I might try a new style, and I think, yes, I've nailed it. I love it. You get that feeling, oh, really good, really happy with this, loving how it came together, loving the finished piece. Just about to come to send it, you're feeling really good, and you post it, and no one likes it.
That's
and you're
awful.
And sometimes I think, why I should have just stopped and not post it and just been happy with where I'd got it and what I'd done with it.
Yeah.
Because the problem I suppose now is because I've been, it makes me feel really old, but I've been there before the internet was something where you posted your work. That I know, you would do something, you would be happy with that design, and it would be only the people around you who could comment on it. And sometimes that was quite nice because it's just a small group, and whereas now it's you can't.
Now the whole planet ignores you.
Yeah.
And sometimes don't you just want a message after that happens and be like, why?
Were you not
what happened,
entertained?
everybody? I thought you liked this kind of stuff. Where did I go wrong?
It's some lettering over a photo. Why don't you like it?
It's an inspirational message.
Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully we've covered a fair amount for people. What's like a quick fire round, closing feedback on getting out of a rut? I'm going to steal Ian's and say do something different.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what works for me the most.
Yeah, for me, and I should take my own advice, is go and do something else and take a break as long as you need to. If you've got days, that's great. If you only got a few hours, then take the few hours. Even if you, I don't know. But just one thing you mustn't do is throw your work away, because sometimes people go, oh, well, that's really junk, and they end up chucking the file, deleting the file.
Yeah.
So rather save it, because you'll be surprised when you come back again, it might actually be fine. It might be quite good. You never know.
Good advice. Ian, how about you, mate?
Well, because you nicked mine.
Fuming.
I think that trying something new, just trying something that you haven't done before, quickly learning, because you can get little short courses. So just quickly learning something, just trying it, doing something that you wouldn't normally do in a design sense, or even just, it could be something else, or just, go out and I like in the morning, I go out and just, because I work at home, I go out and I listen to some music first of all, and just get that. Just have some sort. I think I miss a commute to work, because I think you can switch into work mode, and so sometimes you can do that later on in the day. A bit like Dustin and his little midday nap. I think
don't get me started.
If you can go off and break something, break up the day or break up that pattern, and those admin tasks as well. Just do stuff that you can get from A to B, because sometimes we as designers, we don't know where B is going to ever appear or not. And so doing something that can get done and can get that out of the way.
Just to feel productive.
Yeah, just feel productive. Because you can get to the end of the day, if you've done nothing and you've been in this creative rut, you feel horrible because you've done nothing. If you can actually think, oh, actually, I've got a load of paperwork done, then you can feel good about that. And that hopefully will mean the next day you'll be in a better place.
Cool. How about you, Dustin? Closing thoughts?
I think it's important to remember to not think about individual days and individual failures, but to remember to stick to rituals. So if you're getting up every day and you're getting your coffee and you're doing your work and you're putting it out and getting inspired, some days are going to be good, some days are bad, but if you're following your ritual, the plan will take care of itself, even though you'll have a bad day now and then.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. We hope that it helped you to find your inspiration and learn some effective ways to get out of a design rut. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com, or find us over on iTunes by searching for The Honest Designers Show. If today's episode helped you, we would really appreciate if you took just a moment to leave us a quick review over on iTunes. That's all from us, and we will see you next week for some more design conversation right here on the Honest Designers Show.